welcome back to Harville. For years, the Electoral College has been a curiosity of our electoral system, but there's growing concern that it may not be the most democratic of systems. In the year 2000, the Electoral College became an issue. Still, most thought winning the Electoral College but losing the popular vote was a fluke. But as Hillary Clinton's popular vote lead over Donald Trump now continues to expand, it is clear that there is no longer a fluke. Millions of progressive voters in both coasts are left out of the Electoral College. Hillary Clinton, for example, rolled up a total plurality of 4.5 million votes in California and New York together. A surplus of votes that gave those 4.5 million voters not a single vote in the Electoral College. Legislation called the National Popular Vote Bill would guarantee the presidency to the candidate who receives the most popular votes in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. together. It would kick in when enough states that add up to 270 electoral votes sign in and join the compact. It was passed so far in 10 states and the District of Columbia. That totals 165 electoral votes of the 270 needed to win. States with a total of 105 electoral votes, of course, are still needed before it can go into effect. Instead of actually abolishing the Electoral College, advocates are trying to use it to train it to honor a majority popular vote in this country. John Koza is chairman of the nonprofit National Popular Vote. Rick Hertzberg's with the New Yorker. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming. All I want to do is have people understand that there is a route to correcting this failure of the popular vote to pick a president, if that's what you want. John, lay it out as clearly as you can so that people can walk away this week and talk about it among themselves and perhaps build a foundation or more of a foundation for your effort. John.
Well, thank you, Chris. The Constitution gives the state legislatures the exclusive power to decide how the state awards its electoral votes. Currently, most states award their electoral votes using a state winner-take-all law, which awards all of the electoral votes to the candidate who wins the state. Thus, if you carry Michigan by 12,000 votes and Wisconsin by 22,000 and Pennsylvania by 67,000, you get all of the electoral votes of those states, and thereby, in the case of last week's election, have enough electoral votes to become president, despite the fact that another candidate is leading by 1.4 million votes nationwide.
So that's the case for what's wrong with this system. Your system, tell me how that works. How, again, so everybody hears how it would work. Each of the states, adding up to 270 electoral votes at some point, would commit themselves, Rick, you do it, would commit themselves to voting for the national popular winner. So no matter what else happened in their states, they would vote for the guy or person or woman who wins the whole thing nationally. Rick.
Yeah, that's right. The Constitution, all the Constitution says about selecting the president is that the states will appoint electors in such manner as the legislature of those states determine. So the states are free, essentially, to come up with any method. It took a long time to come up with the winner-take-all method per state, and what this does is it doesn't run an end run around the Constitution. It honors the Constitution by using that provision of the Constitution that the state legislatures have this power, and then the provision allowing for interstate compacts. So what you would have is a mechanism by which we would elect the president the same way we elect governors, senators, city council people, the same way we do it in every other election. Namely, you take the people who are affected by that office, the constituency for that office, in which case, in the case of the president, that's the United States of America, you count the votes, and the one with the most votes wins. It's really common sense, and this approach is thoroughly bipartisan. I mean, there's no secret what my political views are, but one of the great pleasures I've had working on this project is working with Republicans, getting to know them as human beings, because this is something that's good for the entire country.
Well, John, you're a Republican, I understand, but let me ask you, what is the hard part about getting the rest of the 270 total electoral votes you need among the states you get to sign the compact? What's been holding up, and where are you making your fight now? What states?
Well, most recently, this bill has passed the Republican-controlled Oklahoma Senate and the Republican-controlled Arizona House, where 2/3 of Republicans and 2/3 of Democrats sponsored and voted for the bill. In 2016, we had 162 Democratic state legislators sponsoring the bill and 156 Republicans. So we're trying to proceed in a bipartisan way, as we have for the last few years since this idea first got started. And we're hoping to get more and more state legislatures to look at the system in terms of what makes sense for the country and what makes sense for their state. Because most states, of course, are ignored by the current system, notwithstanding what Ted Cruz said in your quote a minute ago, because the entire presidential campaign was conducted in 12 states, and in fact 6 states received 2/3 of the campaign events and money.
I think that where you're going to see the most action, just looking at it from the outside, is California and New York. As I said, if you add up the pluralities together, the two states, the two biggest states, 4.5 million votes over a majority. Don't add it all to the Electoral College vote for Hillary Clinton, even though the states voted so overwhelmingly for her, it didn't do any good. Anyway, thank you, John Koza. Good luck with the work. Rick, thank you for alerting me to this, as you do often with many important issues. Up next, the Hardball Round.